use explicit violence in your writings?
It's what I do, is one answer. I write horror fiction. There is a kind of curiosity that we have as human beings about our life processes. One of our last life processes is death. It's a legitimate subject for curiosity. We shouldn't be ashamed that the macabre or the morbid exercises some fascination upon us. I tell it like it is. If it's there in my mind's eye, I put it on the page. And that seems to me to be a legitimate way to write.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us here on Written in Red. That is the Horror Reader and Writers podcast. We got a great show for you today. Awesome guest waiting in the wings for us, Candace Nola, who is just an awesome author and friend who has pretty much burst onto the scene. And we're going to be talking to her for an in-depth interview very shortly from now. But first, we're just going to do our intros and a couple of quick housekeeping items, and then we'll get right into the interview. So,
and as I can see, it's only two of us today.
A deadly duo.
The best two. Faces, like, yeah. So.
I rank you number one. I'll gladly take that number two, though.
Take number two?
Yeah.
I was going to put you at number one.
No, you're number one. I mean, let Carver and Daniel fight for 3 and 4, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, no, it's unfortunate that Daniel's, he's had a tough one today. He's just tired of looking into the mirror and seeing profound baldness staring back. So he's actually, he's ventured to find he wants a rug. You know, he's looking for a hairpiece, a high quality toupee. It's just sort of struck him in the moment, and you know he had to miss this one.
Well, he called me earlier. He was crying. He just the baldness was getting to him. So he said he was going to take today off to try and find a reputable company where he can get him a high quality toupee. So that's what he's doing right now. And we all know what Daniel's doing. I mean, Carver.
I love it. Yeah. We don't even have to say what Carver's doing.
We don't have to say.
Our listeners know what Carver's doing.
Carver is being awesome and special, and like he always is. I love Carver.
Absolutely. Daniel, you give or take, but Carver's pretty good, So,
Carver's pretty.
But yeah, so Daniel J. Volpe and Carver Pike normally do the show with us, but today it's just us. So I'm Aaron Beauregard. I'm a Splatterpunk Award nominated author. Hopefully could maybe win one this year. We'll see. And you may be familiar with me from my book, The Slob, Modern Hysteria, Wedding Day Massacre. I've launched my new horror store recently, which is abhorror.com, just like my first initials, AB. And pretty much got all my signed stuff, merchandise there, and even some various apparel. So feel free to reach out anytime if you need anything. Roland?
Awesome. Roland Bursey Jr., author of Unbortion, which is a winner of the 2020 American Fiction Awards. I have a couple other books too. Payback is a Witch, Pre-Thanksgiving Stress Disorder. And then I have a couple of stories in anthologies, one with Matt Shaw and Battered of Broken Bodies, and another with Candace Nola, who we'll be talking to in a few minutes, in Baker's Dozen. And then we'll just quickly talk about our friends. I'll take Carver. You guys know Carver Pike, author of the Diablo Snuff series. Brad Knight, his parasitic head lice story, which is very gross and nasty, Scalp. And then he's got his most recent book, Faces of Death, which was released just a couple of weeks ago. And then you can talk about Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel. So Left to You is one of his big selling books right now. Obviously Talia also. And, he's also released Billy Silver. Done a lot of work with D&T Publishing, and actually we did a book together called So Sorry. So be on the lookout for all the Daniel stuff. But
Hopefully they'll be back with us next week for next recording.
absolutely. But either way, we're gonna hold it down today. It's just you and me, baby.
Got it.
But we're gonna do it right. Any housekeeping items you think we need to go over?
Nothing that I can think of that we haven't already previously mentioned or nothing. You?
I think honestly we could probably just roll right into our interview this time. I think, you know, yeah, no, I think we're good for right now. We're somehow all caught up, which is bizarre.
We really are.
So, all right, guys, then without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Written in Red interview with Candace Nola. All right, thank you everybody for joining us for the Written in Red interview. And today we have a very special guest, one of our, I would say, a newer friend since we got to meet at Scares That Care in person, but we've known her for a little while now. It is none other than Candace Nola, who runs Uncomfortably Dark is her website, and you may be familiar with her as she published all of our work, actually everyone on this podcast, Carver, myself, Roland, and Daniel, in the Baker's Dozen anthology, as well as a bunch of other really awesome authors. So welcome, Candace. It's awesome to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, Candace.
Hey, Roland.
My BFF.
Life mate. Life mate.
I just actually finished listening to Baker's Dozen October today, and the audiobook. He did such a good job. Who was it that narrated it?
Jameson Walker. He also has narrated Hank Flynn in my sequel to Breach. So he's currently narrating my next novel, The Werebear. So
He sounds like he's named after a bottle of whiskey or something. What a great name.
right, it is great. He actually sings opera. And he got into narrating, I believe, about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And I think this is something he wants to do like full time now. So he's been kind of introducing himself to everybody and trying to make the rounds. And he's really good. So I like him a lot.
I like his voice. I mean, his voice went really good with the stories. I mean,
Yeah.
And I could see, now that you say that he's sings opera, I could kind of, there's a distinction in his voice that came through in the audiobook. So I kind of could see that.
Yeah.
Like all the stories are good too.
Yeah, so that's that's awesome. I saw you just came out with that, so congrats, because that's your first. Well, you had Hank Flynn, and did you narrate Breach and Beyond the Breach too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
So so you've done quite a few then. So we'll have to talk to you a little bit about that, I think, too, because we haven't discussed audiobooks a whole lot on the podcast. So maybe, and I know Roland actually is like, that's like your shit. So
I love audiobooks.
we're gonna have to dive into that a little bit later. But I think let's just start off, just in case anybody's not quite too familiar with your entire body of work. Could you just maybe bring us through like how you kind of got to this point, and just like your sort of career progression? Because like a lot of us, like you sort of burst onto the scene over the last few years, I would say, like writing wise, right? And
Yeah.
So take us through that,
Take us through that. Well, I had a close friend that basically tricked me into writing a book. And that was early 2019. I had wanted to be a writer all of my life. And I've been writing probably since I was about 11. But, life gets in the way. And I don't know, back at the time, it was like 94. Trying to break into publishing and all that was like snail mail and the big, thick, writer's market. And here's 1,000 addresses. And like, no. Like I needed, life got in the way. I went to work and was just like, okay, I'm never going to break into that. And then kind of put that dream down, except for my own personal things I used to write like here and there. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I met this woman through a game online that I won't mention. And that's a whole story for a whole other time. And her and I hit it off really well. And she is also a writer. And we used to brainstorm a lot. Well, I would help her brainstorm a lot of her storylines and whatnot. And she kept telling me, like, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, ship sailed. I don't have time. I'm like, you know, just no. 2019 rolls around and she's like, hey, I saw this contest and I was hoping that maybe you would co-write this story with me and we you know, just throw it in this contest and see what happens. And I'm like, I don't know. But what do you need and what type of story? And she's like, oh, you know, it can be speculative fiction, it can be dark fantasy, it can be, you know, horror, it can be whatever. She's like, so why don't you give me like a monster? Like start me off with like some sort of monster and, you know, I'll pick up from there and then we'll add to it and you just, you know, help me out. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I sat down that night and I wrote the opening scene to What Is Now Breach. 2,500 words in an hour, and I sent it off to her. I'm like, here you go, here's your monster. And she came back to me with like, this is amazing. And I just kind of laughed at her like, well, you wanted a monster, here you go. And then she's like, oh, okay. She's like, well, keep going, you know, and I'll think about this while I'm at work tomorrow, and then I'll start to jump in. And okay, so I kept going. She never jumped in, you know, and now I'm like, well, here's your story. 6 weeks later, I'm like, I'm done with Breach. And she's like, you're done. And I was like, yeah, but you never jumped in. So I don't know, go ahead back and like add in whatever you want to add. And we can, you know, I'll help you tweak the chapters to incorporate whatever you write. And she's like, yeah, no, I lied to you. She's like, there's no contest. We weren't co-writing anything. She's like, I just wanted to prove I wanted to prove to you that you could do it. And I was like, well, here's your book. Here you go. And she was like, no. She's like, you wrote a book. She's like, and this is phenomenal. What are you going to do with it? And I was just like, here you go. You know, like, it's for you. You know, and she's like, no. She's like, the person I know is not going to write a book and just leave it. She's like, you have a book. What are you going to do with it? And well, 6 months later, I published Breach. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I better learn this. So I went on Amazon and got on KDP and did all of that. Taught myself, you know, how to do all of that and jump through all the hoops. And yeah, I published Breach and it was horrible the first time around. I edited it. I thought I did a good job. No, I did not. I did reach out to the HWA at the time. This was back in October of 2019. And they hooked me up with a mentor who read the first couple chapters. He's like, yeah, it's interesting and it's good and it grabs you, but your editing needs some work and your cover is kind of lame, you know, because the cover is not the same one as on there now. And he was brutally honest, with me, which was good because I was like, I need, you know, the honesty. I need the feedback. I've never done this. I have no idea what I'm doing. You know, tell me what to do from here. How do I fix this? And he's like, go back through it, edit it. He's like, you've been away from it for a while, so you should be able to see it with like a new perspective. And he was right. Like I got back off the phone with him. I opened my file up again and I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, I missed all of this, you know? So I pulled Breach down. I went all the way back through it again. I edited the hell out of it and just redid everything. I pulled in a whole bunch of family members and my aunt, who is also a English teacher, and she redlined every page. And, you know, I put in like another like 4 months worth of work, getting it like cleaned up and revised it a whole lot, tightened everything up, learned how to make a cover, put on a whole new cover myself. And I relaunched it in July of 2020. And then it started to do a little bit more in sales. And by that point, my mentor had also taught me a whole lot about marketing, promoting the Facebook groups. Like I knew nothing. I had no clue how to start, how to Like I had no one to ask advice of. I just knew nothing. This man taught me more in 3 months than I would have ever learned in 3 years, like by myself. So I took all of his advice. I made my website. I started a newsletter, got on all the Facebook groups, and started reaching out to you guys. Aaron, I think you were one of the first people I reached out to. Was like, hey, can I maybe review your book? I got this little website. And, you know, I've reviewed, was it the Slob, the first one I reviewed? No, it was,
No, I think it was. I think it was. It was.
Was it? No, it was, God, what is it? The big guy.
Oh, Scary. Was it Scary Bastard?
Yeah. Scary Bastard.
That's right.
Was the first one of yours that I read, and then I reviewed it for my website. And then from that interaction with you, you know, other people started like interacting with me and messaging me, and I got my website off the ground, you know, and then by then I was already working on part 2 for Breach, because my mother insisted on a part 2. So Beyond the Breach was done, and then I published it in November of 21, moved right on to Hank Flynn. No, I published Beyond the Breach in 2020, the end of 2020, I believe. I moved into Hank Flynn, got that written in a couple months, and then Hank Flynn came out last July, and then I moved into, well, the anthology, of course, and that whole project, and then Bishop, my newest.
Hey,
Here we are, 3 years later, 5 books, 4 audiobooks, and whole website, and several hundred interviews and reviews and sales, and
That's awesome.
here I am.
Hey, where did you say you met the mentor at?
I'm not telling you. Oh, the mentor. Oh,
Mhm.
the HWA has a mentor program that new writers, aspiring writers, any writer can sign up for. And they actually will match you with somebody in the HWA that is either a dark fiction author, horror author, sci-fi. My guy was actually a sci-fi author at the time, like dark fiction. Well, he's still is, but they work with you for like 3 to 4 months, and they will Zoom you and chat with you, and they'll email you. They read your work. They give you feedback, and you basically have them at your disposal to pretty much ask all your questions and like, hey, what do I do next? And what do you suggest? Or, you know, and with him, I made most of it about like the marketing and the promoting piece, because that was what I had no idea where to start with. I just didn't have a clue. As far as writing goes, I mean, I'm pretty good there, and I did need some feedback as far as like the editing purposes go, but as far as the craft itself, I was okay with, and those are all things that will improve over time. But I needed to know, like, okay, how do I get this off the ground now that I have this book out? Like, what do I do next? So, worked out well.
Is there like a charge associated with that? Because I think a lot of new authors would would benefit from that.
No, it's free.
But you have to be a dues-paying member of HWA, though, right?
I still am not a member.
Oh wow, cool. So that's a great resource then, at least to ask and, you know, see if it can be available. You know, that's really cool.
You do have to let them know like your commitment to the horror industry itself, and like what your intentions are, and if you've written anything and all of that. Like they do want to know that it's going to be worthwhile for both you and the mentor. But at the time that I was matched with mine, there was no fee, and there was not a stipulation that I had to be a member.
That's cool. And we never really talked about that before, Aaron. I don't think that's ever come up in any of the shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually I've worked with the HWA Rhode Island chapter now, on and off for maybe like a year, not even a full year probably, but you know, they just kind of started up the Rhode Island chapter relatively recently. It might have been around before, but I think it kind of disbanded, and Krista Carmen, she's a horror author. She's the head of the Rhode Island chapter, and it's cool. It seems like it's coming together now, and I paid my dues recently just to kind of put forth more of an effort to do like some local stuff.
Mhm.
There's a few events that they're doing, and I just want to do more local shit personally.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if you guys are, so far it's been a good experience. I'm not sure that you know, it's a good it's probably more for like networking, I think, and like doing a few local events and building local presence. I think the dues might be like $78 a year. It's not
Yeah.
like an incredible amount, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's worth trying.
I do plan to join sometime this month. I already have met the qualifications like some time ago. I just haven't had the time to kind of fill everything out and download all of my info to like send them. But that is on my list to do for this month. So hopefully by the end of the month, I'll be an official dues paying member. So.
That's awesome. Going back to what you were talking about, though, about that first book, and we talked about this a bunch of times about thinking you can edit your own stuff and like, just some of the early things that we've done. It just makes no sense. And you look back on it and you're like, oh my God. And then, same thing too, like when you look at that first book that you wrote, if you've written, 6, 7 books, or in my case, like, I think I'm at like 19 or something coming up, and it's like I looked at that first book recently and I'm just like, God damn, like this is not like I've evolved so much in that period of time. But that's a good thing, to even though it's obviously not on par with what you're writing now, but it's it still holds a special place. And we were talking about this a few episodes ago where I was like, to some people that first book is still their favorite somehow, which is weird, but it just goes to show you,
Candace, what was the original cover of Breach?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Do you want to see it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and if you have a digital image, send it to me because I'll put it up on the YouTube show to embarrass the shit out of you.
I never knew she had a different cover.
Well, again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I kept it and I saved it because, of course, I had some prints made, and I'll also explain why I saved the copies of them and what it means. But this is the original. It's nothing fantastic. It's just like like a foggy mist, with the trees in the background, and
I
don't know. But I'll tell you, it was obviously made using the KDP cover create tool that they have.
Well, that's like a couple weeks ago we had Patrick C. Harrison III with his cover, and I put that on the YouTube video of it. And he was like, this thing fucking makes me cringe when I see it. And I was like, oh yeah, let me put it on blast real quick.
Well, it's not awful. And I think when you see the actual image up front, it's certainly not awful. It's not striking, but it does have like a sort of like haunting sort of otherworldly view, which is kind of what I wanted. And there also has the cloudiness part has like a yellowish tint to it, which if you've read Breach, the world she's in is very like, it has this sort of yellowish murky glow over all of it. Like it's never anything bright and sunshiny. There's never a clear day. Everything just has this like yellowish cast to it, which is why I chose the picture I did. But my father was one of my, well, he was the most excited person when he read the book. Well, beside my mom, but my father was super proud because he's always been encouraging of it. And he was reading Breach all along. And then when I was trying to decide what cover to pick, I was asking him, and that's the cover that he chose. And he kind of helped me like learn how to adjust it and tweak the different fonts. And like, he helped me like choose each little step that I made. And then right after I had published the novel itself the first time, the bad version, he actually passed away like within like 2 months. January 2020 he passed away. And I'll never get rid of my copies of this. My mom has one sitting on her in her house too. And this was the first and only book that he ever got to see of mine, and I see it actually in print. And that's why I just kind of like have it here and was like, well, he helped me with it, and
yeah.
So
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Good job at like bringing the world of Breach alive. Like the creatures were so like. First of all, I like kind of fantasy and dark horror. So when I read it, I was like, oh my god, I love every last creature in here. From the little, what do you call it? The baby fly?
The Jack and Jills.
The Jack and Jills, yes. And then the unicorns and everything else. But you didn't call them unicorns.
Nope.
What was it?
Pegacorns.
Pegacorns, yes. So
Because they're a cross between a Pegasus and a unicorn.
yes.
They're jet black, they fly, they have the one horn, and they have hidden spikes in their mane, like razor sharp red like spikes in their mane. So
Now,
good.
I know that you also released like a bunch of character imagery work not that long ago too, which I thought was really cool. So like obviously you had your cover already, but then you went and had a lot of different artwork rendered to bring some of the creatures and things in the world alive. What did you end up like releasing an edition of the book that included those illustrations, or?
I did not. I did have 2 custom posters made of each one of. I had a custom poster designed for Breach and one for Beyond the Breach. And probably over the summer this year, I'm going to take some of those pieces of artwork and put them on some t-shirts and some coffee mugs and things, because people do really like some of the creatures from the book, including the Jacks and Jills, and people want them, like they've been asking for like shirts and can I get a print or can I get this? So I'm going to have the Jacks and Jills put on a mug, a shirt, little buttons, stuff like that. And then I do have like full color 11 by 17 posters of each one. And the artist did a phenomenal job. It was actually the same artist that did the internal images for the Baker's Dozen for each one of our stories. And he did
Those are
an
really
amazing
cool.
job. Yeah. He read the book and like he went through like every description I had. He read the book, he loved it, and then he drew his visual of what the creatures were, and then he would show me, and then we would collaborate from there, like, okay, change this, make this smaller. He nailed every last one of them. Just amazing. So
That's awesome.
Pleased. Yeah.
So a lot has happened for you in a very short period of time, and now in addition to all these releases, these audiobooks, and the website doing really well, you have your chapbook deal with Death's Head too, right? So you have a 3 chapbook deal, which I'm seeing they're announcing quite a few different people for this now, which is really cool. So how did that come about, and what can you tell us about that? Because I'm assuming that's next on tap for you, right? Is that like release wise? Will that be what comes next, or?
I'm not sure when the release is. I have to have them to Patrick here by the middle of June. I did just actually wrap up one of them, and the other 2 are half written and in various stages of like revising and things. I don't know what the release time frame looks like right now. I'm sure once they get them, he'll have to design the cover images or tell the artist, what he's looking for from there. I would assume maybe sometime in the fall, give them a few months. I do know there's quite a few people, I think 6 or 7 of us now that have been signed.
Yeah, I think I saw
Jeff Strand is one.
Bridget Nielsen, I think.
Bridget Nielsen just announced hers.
Just the other day.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ron Kelly just put up his pre-orders.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
His covers are fantastic. They're amazing.
Those are really cool.
Yeah. So How it came about, I have no idea. I don't know how I was chosen. I don't know how they picked me. Not sure why they picked me.
Oh, you're good.
Patrick just emailed me one day. He's like, "Hey, you wanna? Cause we want you, and here's how it's gonna go." And I was like, "Are you joking? You serious? Did you mean to send this to me?" Like, he was like, "Got your name on it, doesn't it?" I was like, "All right, well, yeah, hell yeah, I want it." You know, and I don't know. I think I'm still in that stage where, like, I know things are going well, but my brain hasn't caught up to it, and it's a little surreal to me still when I get approached for, I want you to do this anthology, or do you have time to do this, or hey, here's a contract, and I'm like, like I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I think
it's nice, but it's just
it's a lot. But it's like this is like what we talk about on the show too. Like I've talked about this in depth a couple times. Like, if you build it, they will come. Like, instead of I don't want to say wasting, because sometimes you do get things out of it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you will get published early on in your career if you have a great idea or a great pitch, you know. But people that are getting a lot of rejections, and they're spending a lot of time submitting and writing letters and, putting their heart out there only to be crushed time over time. Stop. My advice would just be to stop. Build it yourself, similar to like what you did, Candace. You've written so many books now, and you built yourself up. And then they come and they approach you, and it's like you're being. It's a better use of your time, I think. Because you're investing in yourself, and you're learning a lot of these things in the self-publishing realm, and you're ironing out a lot of maybe like quirks in your writing during these early stages, and then by the time that these publishers do approach you, you're more refined, and you're really ready to crank shit out now.
Right.
So.
Right.
But that's awesome. So you've got the chapbooks coming. Is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as stuff that you have planned for in the future, maybe outside of the chapbooks, books or anything like that?
There's some things I can talk about. There's some things I can't. I have probably 15 projects scheduled for the next solid 12 months. Already like contracted, signed on for, in the works as we speak. So the chapbooks are one of them. I am doing another chapbook with 2 other authors that have approached me. Not going to give you details on what it entails, but that is with Joseph Monks and Franklin Wales. And we are doing a chapbook consisting of one story from each of us. So that should be out. I think we're aiming for September. So that is in works. Of course, my 3 chapbooks. I have a poetry collection coming out over the summertime. Hopefully, if all goes well and I don't feel like I'm going to ditch it at the last moment. I do have another installment of Hank Flynn coming out later this fall, and another one for the Bishop series. So due to high demand and people already asking me, hey, is there going to be another one? And my mother, of course, leading the charge with, I need more. So there is another one of those, and there is quite a there's a hell of a storyline in the works for that one. And there will be another author involved in that. They already are involved in that, which I think will add a whole nother layer to the story that people are really going to enjoy. So, and then that will kick off that cast of characters as, hey, we're going to do a series with this group, and this is how it's going to start. So I think those are the things I can talk about. Anthology-wise, I have been invited to another 4, I believe, at this time, that are scheduled for the later part of this year. And then there's a couple more scheduled out for early next year that I can't talk about. I have another project that I also can't talk about, but you'll hear it from me like later on over the summertime. As far as the website goes, I do have a huge thing coming out. It's actually kicking off next weekend, May 14th. I'm starting my horror icons and legends interviews. And at the current moment, I have 17 authors are signed up to be interviewed for every weekend. Some of those authors include Jeff Strand and Ronald Kelly. Haley Piper is scheduled. Lindy Ryan is scheduled. A couple others I'm going to hold on to for a little bit, just because it'll help build that excitement, I think. And I did get some really influential authors, some very legendary people, some modern icons for right now. I think people are really going to be excited about it. I am. I'm actually shocked that I got responses from some of the people that I did. So those will be posted every Saturday beginning next week, all the way until the middle of August, I believe. So stay tuned for those.
So you have a lot going on. You always do. How do you keep it all organized?
Oh, I have a bunch of hamsters that do all that. It's just, my brain just never shuts off. So I give it all a bunch of little jobs to do. I multitask a lot. And then also, if you look over here to my side, if you can see it pop in there. What is it? That's the whiteboard? I don't know. Wherever. You can't see it. There's a massive whiteboard right here. And there's another one behind me on this side. And every moment of my life is scheduled out on the whiteboards. Editing jobs, magazine stuff that is due. Because as I think you guys know that I'm also part of the House of Stitched, dark fiction horror magazine that started last fall, I think. So articles and things are assigned for that. Editing jobs, because you guys all know I'm doing the editing now. I have a team that is working with me with that. So those jobs are scheduled. Yeah, deadlines are written down there. And then the other one is actually for like the month, and every single day is scheduled out like with the time frame. So from 7 to 9, it's editing this story. Wow. And then from 9 to 11, it's working on this story that I'm working on. And then from 11 to 1 a.m., it's answering emails and doing my little, scrolling through social media and on TikTok and interacting and engaging and all of that. Every evening, I'm up here in my office from 7 at night until between 12:30 and 1 a.m. Just nonstop.
And to put this in perspective, you say 7 to 12 because you work another job, right? Like a real job.
I have a day job. So I work 9 hours a day.
So this is another thing when people talk about they want to be a writer, that if you really do want it, you have to understand that sacrifices are going to have to be made. It's not just going to be granted to you, even after you put the time in to write the book. Like you're saying, it's going to be hours of, you're going to have to figure out formatting. You're going to have to educate yourself. You're going to have to promote. You're going to have to be on social media. You're going to have to do interviews. And you do a whole bunch of other shit in addition to that, right? That with the running of the website and some of the other things you're doing. If you want to be successful, I think the proof is in the pudding, and it's just do it. That's the best advice. And that's honestly, a lot of other people that we ask for advice on this topic, what would you do? A couple weeks ago we had Matt Shaw, same thing. He's just write. Just write it. You know what I mean? And it's the truth, So congratulations to you though for being able to organize all that. I think and I'd be interested to hear your approach too, Roland, but for my approach, it's kind of I'm very focused, I think. Although in the launch of this store recently, like launching the website and the store, that was kind of a bit of a sidetrack, and felt like I was juggling things. But I'm a kind of person, like, I won't take on too many projects because I feel that I'll get overwhelmed. But that's pretty cool that you have that as an attribute, because that takes a special person. Not a lot of people can sort of have their head in that many things and still be able to sort of carve it out. But what about you, Roland? I'd be interested to hear, like, as far as your projects go, are you cool working on multiple things, or?
No. Candace knows that. No, I actually had 3 things going on at one time, and I was like, yeah, this is stressful. So I had to, like, kind of put one on the back burner for a little bit. Yeah, just maybe 1 or 2 at the most, because I realized I can't jump between stories. Like, I got to finish one before I move to my next one.
Yeah, and even this podcast, you know what I mean? Like, that's another thing that's sort of something for us to do, and then there's some administrative work to it as well. But Candace, you strike me as somebody that has sort of like a managerial sort of persona to you anyway. So I think that really benefits you in the way that you're able to fill that whiteboard up like that. So
it helps. It helps a lot. But I have always had a very overactive brain, just constant. And if it's not focusing on things, I can tend to, like, dwell on things that I don't want to dwell on. Like, I'm human like anyone else. I have things that, I've been through that, have hurt me or caused issues. And I have depression issues like anyone else. I've been battling depression since I was 11. I have all the same issues that everyone else has. I have self-esteem issues and insecurity issues and imposter syndrome. And if you would have told me 9 months ago I would have been on a podcast, I would have laughed you off the closest peer. Like, I spent the majority of my life stuttering. When I was a kid, you couldn't hear anything I said. I couldn't say my own name. I still have times where I can't say my own name. And I was very shy from talking to anybody, let alone being, like, filmed or on video or even on the phone. Like, I wouldn't talk to anybody. When text messaging became a thing, oh my God, yeah, I'll text you all day long, but you won't get me to call you, and it's just, right now I'm doing so many things I never thought possible. And even as recently as a year ago, I would have told you no. I would have been like, not my thing. You're not going to get me.
I remember. No, a year ago, I'm pretty sure I suggested it to you.
I think,
like, you should come on.
Did.
And you were like, I don't think I can do that. Like, I just don't think that's my thing. And then you were like, I'll just give you some information to read about me. And, like, and I was like, okay. But you know what? But that just shows you that, like, when you're doing something that you love, it really helps you grow, and, like, you do uncomfortable things that you wouldn't normally do. Like, if you were doing it for your normal job and we were going on a meeting to conference, I'd be like, oh God, this is, like, I want to blow my fucking head off. But
I'm still like that
for this. It's good though, it's like we look forward to this kind of stuff, and like you said, you got to kind of, I feel like a lot of us are similar in that way, like we've all had horrible things happen in our lives at some point or another, and it's like this is writing such an awesome thing to, I don't want to say it's a distraction, but it's also like a catharsis too, like it's kind of a mix of both,
It is a distraction to an extent, because if you're occupying your mental space with something productive and you're kind of living inside that your own space where you're safe and you're in your own world writing the story, and it does distract you from those other thoughts you could be having. You could be sitting in front of the couch dwelling on, that heartbreak that happened a year ago, or the loss of somebody that happened, or, any number of one other 100,000 things. But when you're doing this, you don't have the time to dwell on it. And I do know everybody is built differently. Everybody handles their issues and things a different way. This is just mine, and I just find it easier to kind of keep myself occupied and just multitask, and also having me being able to go from one zone to the next every night. It breaks up the monotony. So I'm not just, I just spent the last 6 weeks writing the same story and I'm just so sick of these characters. It's no, I've reviewed 27 books that I read this last 6 weeks. I finished a novel. I interviewed 15 authors. I did. It's like, I'm always focused on the next task, the next task, the next task. And it's just, I just keep it moving. And yeah, I have days and I make sure I take breaks here and there. I have kids at home and I have a son that I spend time with, and I come down every once in a while so he can see I'm still alive, and all that. But I just keep it moving with what I want to do, because I feel like if I'm going to do this, I don't know how to do things half-ass. I never have. If I'm going to put my name on something, and not only my name, but I'm out here on social media and on Facebook as myself. I'm not using a pen name. I'm not using an avatar. This is me. Like, what you see is what you get. And it's my name on all of these things. I'm not going to do something half-assed to have it just be out there like, oh, you see what this person did? Like, I wouldn't want to work with her to, save my life. She sucks. She's unprofessional. She's blah, blah, blah. Like, once I got all of this off the ground, I was 120% in. I'm going to do this and see what happens. And this is my name out there. It's not just a hobby to me. Like, this is the rest of my life. Like, I'm here to do this and I'm here to make it work. And I feel like if you want something bad enough, at some point you have to pick yourself up and you have to just make that commitment. I'm going to do this and that's it. Yeah, I have days. I have days I wake up and I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Like, it's a bad day, or, I'll get off for work and it'll be a bad day at work and I'm stressed. And Roland knows. I talk to Roland all day long and I'll text him and be like, these people, oh my goodness, and it'll just be a rough day at work or I'm just exhausted. But I'm like, okay, I can go and sit on the couch and do nothing. Or, I'll take a break. I pick myself up and I'm like, okay, I have a schedule and I just move on. It's time to read for an hour on this book that's due for book review this week. Then I go upstairs and I do my emails and I wrap up that editing job and I move on. Like, it's just, you have a schedule to keep. I need to do this. And you made a commitment, not to just myself, but at this point I have commitments to other people, other authors, like people that are waiting for me to update the website, people that are waiting for me to finish their editing jobs. It's not just about me anymore. It's about, I have a fan base and I have readers and I have these things that people are expecting me to do. And I don't know how to let people down.
Yeah. Well, what you're doing too is like, you're slowly carving out a path for yourself to reach, to get out of the woods, which the woods is the grim, dark woods of daily work. It is the truest horror story, the most relatable horror story.
Yes.
But you're in there with a chainsaw, carving your way out each day for a few hours in that office, and then eventually you're gonna be out of those woods and you're gonna see the sunshine every day, and then it's going to be a lot different, and we don't know how long this is going to last for, but going back to what you said about putting your name on stuff and having a sense of pride in that, I definitely half-ass quite a few things, but it's not writing, you know what I mean? Sure, I may half-ass cleaning the fucking kitchen or something or whatever it is, but like you said, if you're putting your name on a product and you're trying to put a smile on people's faces, our name is one of the few things that we're given, and if we tarnish that, you're kind of fucked. It's tough to pull yourself out of that hole once you go in it, and
Yes.
that's why it's like people like you and I, we're lucky that we revised our early works before people really started reading us. You know what I mean? Because it could really be damaging otherwise. You know.
Yeah.
So. But that's awesome. So I think, you're doing quite a bit right now. Like, and you've done a lot already. So I want to ask you. We like to talk about challenges on the podcast too. Like, what is some of the most, difficult challenges that you've had? I mean, I know you alluded to a couple around just like your persona in sort of these meeting type things, and I know speaking and things like that. But what about from like a writing perspective? What were your greatest challenges that you think you've had to
Stole
conquer?
my question, Aaron.
Oh no!
No, I was literally about to ask her what was the most challenging project she's ever worked on. You just took it. It was like going through my head. I'm like,
We are telepathically connected.
yeah, we were.
The most challenging project. Well, I mean, publishing the first book was a challenge because, didn't have a clue. It definitely was a learning process through that whole thing. Writing the book wasn't the problem. I actually had all of Breach written in 9 weeks, 10 weeks, and I wrote it on my phone. So.
Oh, wow.
But I believe once it was completed, it was the learning process of where do I go from here? Like, what do I do next? What sort of websites are out here that I need to be using? What tools do I really need to be, in the know of? How do I use them? What's the best way to go about, okay, how do I get my name out there and say, okay, I have this book for sale and here's why you should read it, and then once I moved on from there and kind of taught myself a lot about, doing promotions and the newsletters and the different websites and things that I found to be the most advantageous for me to use. The next biggest challenge from there was probably the Baker's Dozen. I came out with this, oh yeah, here's an idea. Hey guys, why don't we do this? And I immediately regretted it when the words fell out of my face when I contacted all of you guys. I was like, so you want to do this? Because I fully expected you all to say no and be like, who is this rookie and what does she think she's doing? And, I was like, yeah, it was a dumb idea. So I'm going to say no. And then every single one of you said yes. And I sat down and cried for about 20 minutes. Partly from joy, I think, and like sort of like surrealness and kind of like, holy fuck, what did I just do? Because now I got to pretend like I even know how to do this, and I didn't have a clue. But I was like, how hard can it be? I published this book and that book, and I did that. And as far as editing goes, I got that down. And sure, this is a bunch of stories. Yeah, I was wrong. But I wasn't. Like, I had the basics down. I had really good people to ask questions of. By that point, so we're into, last year? So we're last fall. By that time, I had some really good connections, people who had published anthologies before and still do. I had the experienced people that I could reach out to. Lisa Vasquez from the House of Stitch is my editor there, and also one of my closest friends. And I went to her close to tears a couple times, like, it's poor, I can't get it. And she offered up so much time to really like teach me how to do it. She actually went through the anthology page by page and set my format up to really help me get the look that I wanted. And that, for me, the formatting was just ridiculous.
It is a night. Like the way you formatted that book in a really cool way too. Like, it's unique. Mm-hmm. But I totally agree with you, because that was one I would ask my wife. I would flip the fuck out sometimes. Like, I would be working, these ridiculous hours at my last job, like, 10-hour fucking day, 11-hour day, and then I'm up like formatting this book, and it's just like, you would think setting fucking page numbers would be basic. You would think like, You know what I mean? Like there's some really things that you would believe to be very basic, but
Yeah.
if you don't have a previously built template already and you're trying to do something unique, it could be infuriating. Like it could get infuriating. And did you say Lisa Lee helped you with it?
Lisa Vasquez.
Oh, Lisa Vasquez. Okay,
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. So she, became my new best friend during that time frame because the formatting, it truly was a nightmare. But I got it eventually. Then I had to find a press, well, a printer, of course, because I guess technically I am the press. I had to find a printer and figure out, which of these can do what I'm asking them to do. And come to find out, not many of them can print in all black pages, let alone the pages that I wanted. So I had to, talk with them and like, okay, this is exactly what I want, and this is how it's going to go, and it's going to be flipping back and forth between the white and the black. I need to know 100% before I sign this contract, you can do this. Because if not, I need to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out because this is what I want, and I'm not taking no. You're not telling me no. I will find somebody else. So I was interviewing like all these different printing places, and some of the costs were just astronomical, and I was just like, I don't care, like I'm doing this, and then I talked to the artist and I pulled him in and I was like, hey John, you want to do this project, and you did a really good job with my artwork, and this is kind of what I'm going for, this is the look that I want. And I was like, but it's going to take you some time because you're going to have to read each one of the stories to get a feel for what their cover needs to be for it. And once again, he was all in. He's like, absolutely, sure, send it over. So I was sending him a story a week, and he would read it, send me, his artwork for the next one. I would send it off to the author like, hey, what do you think? You like it? You hate it? You love it? Are we good? And all of that was a lot of back and forth because some people loved theirs immediately. Some people did not. Some people want to change it. So that was fun. But he did eventually, I think, nailed it for everyone to the point where every author involved ultimately really loved their artwork that went with it. Everyone was pleased. Once I got the okay from them, I was able to kind of start formatting it for real. Dawn Noble, of course, had to do the cover designs for everything, which was different covers, of course, for the Amazon versions, for Kindle, the paperback, and then the limited edition version, which is the black and red one. And we went with like the retro style for the paperback, and then the hardcover one, I had a very certain look that I wanted. So Dawn did a phenomenal job with that. There was a lot of moving parts, but when I got the proof, not gonna lie, like I was waiting on my porch almost all day, like because I knew it was scheduled to be delivered, and I was pacing. I should have probably taken the day off work because I just kept getting up and down, like checking the door, and like every sound outside that sounded like a delivery truck, I was like, oh, is it here? Is it here? But when it came and I opened it, like I'm not embarrassed to say, like I cried. Like holding the book and just see, like they nailed it. There wasn't anything wrong. There wasn't an issue. It was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And to see like my name on there and everyone else's and just everything, and that was the best feeling in the world to me. I didn't even feel quite that intensely when I held Breach for the first time, or, yeah, it was cool. I'm like, okay, I got this book. Yeah, now what do I do? And then when I did the second one, it was still cool. And I was like, okay, here's part two. And by the time I did Hank, it was kind of becoming like old hat. And I'm like, okay, here's my other book. But when I saw what I had put together with all of you guys, I think that's when it really like made it a lot more personal to me and a lot more intense, because I was like, okay, I didn't just do this for myself. I did this for all of them because you guys are like phenomenal authors. I was just honored that you guys said yeah, and like, and to be able to take that group of authors, and there's a reason why I chose the people that I chose. All 12 of you were the first people to become friends with me. in the business per se, to like give me a chance. You were the first group of people that were sending me books going, hey, do you want to review this? Or, hey, yeah, I'll do that interview. Or, hey, how's things going? Or, hey, here's some advice. Or, hey, I found this great website. Why don't, you guys were the first group that were really just embracing and welcoming and just made me feel like I fit right in. And that was my tribute to that, like to you guys. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about I want to do this book and put my story in it because I'm vain and I want to publish myself because no one else will. It was about I want to thank these guys and show them what I'm capable of and just do it right. And I wanted you guys to have something beautiful to put on your shelf and just hey, we did this. I don't even look at the whole thing like I did this. I look at it like we did this. Like there were 13 of us in this book and it belongs to all 13 of us. And it's here you go.
Well, it's definitely.
I think that
definitely
was
an
my
honor.
most important.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say definitely an honor though, and like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's like you can see how much effort was put into the book, just even as it sits behind you right there. It just looks majestic, and you did an excellent job with it, and subsequently got it, nominated for the Splatterpunk Awards. So it's like, no matter what happens, the project was a success, and I just think like that's a testament, to what you can do if you want something, and it's like you took it, you leveled up, it's like yes, you were putting out books, and then you took a risk and you conquered something that was incredibly difficult, and that put a lot of pressure on you. But right, when you have enough pressure, you can turn out a diamond, right? And that's the old thing. And it's like that's the way to do it. Sometimes the pressure is what makes people great. And
yeah,
look at you now. So congratulations on that front.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, guys, I lost internet connection. Did I go out for a second?
You were frozen.
Yeah, it was very brief though, and we didn't miss a beat. But
I hate talking about Baker's Dozen, which is just a beautiful, beautiful book. And for me to be part of it, I am so honored and proud of myself. And thank you, Candace, for going the miles that you did to put something we've never seen, or I have never seen, together. Like, that's something special.
That was the point. I just wanted it to stand out. Like I believe I posted some pictures online last week. I collect the classics and the leather bound books and the really pretty hardcover books and everything. Like my library that I work in my attic actually that has well over 100 or so of those around it. And I wanted this book to have that feel. Like I wanted it to have that sort of classic, just quality look to it overall that wasn't going to fade. Like I wanted when people walk into your houses and see it on your shelf, I want them to be like, oh, wow, like, look at that. I just wanted it to be something that you would keep and be able to treasure for a while, years, and pass it on to your kids, and something your kids would be like, I don't want to get rid of that. Like, my dad has a story in there. My mom has a story in there. And the people that all purchased the book, like, they've all said the same thing. They're like, this is one I don't even want to open. Like, I had people that bought the paperback and bought the hardcover too, because they don't want to open the hardcover at all. So like, it's just a Kindle version because it's too pretty to even handle, And I was like, no. I don't know.
That's awesome. No, I agree. It's like, it's one of those books, it's a special thing. Thank you. And thanks for having, all of us. Even, I know Carver's not here. And Dan is actually out. He's trying to get fitted for a toupee. He's looking for a rug actually. And upstairs and down, he wants a Merca to wrap, he's doubling up he's having some follicle issues, but You know, that's a conversation for another day, really. But
Let's help.
I think I can speak. I think I can speak for them in saying that you know, it was an honor for them to be in there as well.
Yeah.
And congratulations. You know, hopefully it wins the Splatterpunk Award. You know, that'd be friggin' awesome.
I don't even know what my reaction would be. Like, I'll probably melt right there on stage and just fall apart and cry a whole lot.
You're definitely going to KillerCon for it, right?
Yes, I'm definitely going. I will be there, and I feel like it's important for me to be there. The honor itself has already taken place. It's just being nominated, like on the final nomination for that was just amazing. There are some powerhouses that put great anthologies out this last year, and to see my book on there, or our book that made it to that point, I was floored. Like, the honor's already been done. Like, if I win, man, I don't even know. You guys might catch me drunk in the penthouse, like partying naked. I don't know. But like, I'm already floored and speechless just to be even to that point. And for my first attempt at something like that, and I know that the judging wasn't even on the hardcover itself. And, you know, people were just reading the stories that were produced, and, you know, it's all about the stories, and that comes from you guys. I may have edited it and everything, but the content came from you guys. You know, I'm just thrilled that we made it to the point where we did. And hey, if it wins, oh man. But if it does not, it's great. I'm going to be there to congratulate whoever wins and shake hands with everyone else and hug all of you guys. And I'm just happy to be there. You know, I don't even know what my reaction will be if I win. I probably won't be able to talk. I'll just be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Award for you.
You're rolling into it.
On Candace Nola's behalf, she's passed out on the floor, but I'm sure she thanks you guys.
You're stepping in the puddle, like.
And speaking of conventions, like, so when you went to Scares That Care, that was your first time?
Yeah.
And do you see yourself, like, doing more of those in the future? How was that?
Yeah, I'm hooked. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hooked. I was stressed about it for like months, and then when Brian posted the schedule, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna do this panel," and I was like, "No, I'm not." I kind of thought about it for a little bit, and he did have me scheduled to do a reading too, but as I already mentioned, you know, I was like, I don't speak well in public. You put me in a room full of people and it's just not a good thing. And I was like, okay, so take me off for the reading, keep me on for the panel, because I had a plan. I was like, okay, you know, there's 13 of us. I'm going to come in, sit down at the end, and, you know, by the time the questions get to me, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I agree with so-and-so, was great, you know, move on. You know, and I wouldn't have to really talk much. And I was like, I'm going to sit down here and be invisible because, you know, I'm a rookie. I'm new here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know how I even got here. And I just figured I'll blend in with the wall. But, you know, I was terrified the whole time.
Honestly, I wish you did not bail on your reading, only because I was not, like, really looking forward to reading either. I'm not, like, the best reader, I don't think. And, like, you know, I'm not super comfortable, you know, with large groups or anything like that either, and like being the person to talk. But I've done more of it. Like, I did like a speech not that long ago about writing horror in front of some people to kind of, you know, open up a little bit about it. But the readings were actually like really intimate readings. For the most part, it was about like 14, maybe 15 people in the room. So I just think it would have actually been perfect for you to do a reading and kind of get the monkey off your back at this one, because I think next year there's going to be a lot of people at that one. I think more than this year for sure.
Yeah, but I think the panel discussion is when, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but when I got to AuthorCon and I first met you, group of people that I met, and I was high from then on. Not literally like I didn't smoke a blunt in the car. Like I was on in like an adrenaline rush from then on, because I was just like, oh my God, I'm finally here. I get to meet all these guys and all these authors I've worked with. And I already felt like I had known you guys like half of my life. And then I get there and you guys were just so great, and you helped me like unload the car, and like were so nice to my mom and my daughter, and like my table was all set up in no time. And like the day just went by so quickly, and then Roland came, and that was like the icing on the cake. And I was just like, oh, my BFF is here. Oh my God. And then Roland was there, and I only had like an hour to talk with him. And then it was like the panel discussion, and Brian Keene had me like took me under his wing from the moment I got there. And I was like, this guy knows my name, He was like, you good? You good? He kept checking on me, and I was like, I feel sick. Like, I'm going to vomit. I don't know what's happening. And he like walked me over to where the panel was, and everybody was in there. And I was like, oh, cool. My seat's at the end. I'm just going to go over there. And Jeff Strand stands up, and he's sitting at the table in the middle, and he was like, oh, no, you're going to go right here. And I was like, oh, God, no, Jeff. Like, first of all, Jeff, I've been reading Jeff for 15, 17 years. Jeff to me is one of my heroes, and having him not only in the anthology, but being able to meet him and him just being so great, I was just, my weekend was made by that point. And I was like, oh, no, sir, I'm not taking your spot. He's like, yeah, you're going to sit here. People are here to, they want to hear what you have to say. And I was like, dude, I don't even know why I'm here, But he made me sit in his spot, and he was like number 4, I think. And then he went down the end, and I was like, well, there goes my plan. And I'm sitting down between Christopher Ruffty and Tommy Clark, and I was terrified. I was near tears. I honestly felt like I was going to be sick, because now I can't just sit and wait for the questions to filter down to me, and I could be just left saying with, oh, yeah, what they said is great, or I agree with so-and-so, insert name here. And now I'm number 4, and I'm like, oh, I got to say words, and I don't know, when the questions got to me, I opened my mouth, and my first sentence was, I'm sorry, I'm going to vomit. And then I said words that made sense, and it kept happening. And like my fear kind of just fell off of me like a weight. The stutter wasn't even there. And I had people looking at me and actually not just listening, but like invested in what I was saying. It wasn't just, oh, she's just talking, and people were ignoring me or like having their own little side convos. They were listening to me, my answers, what I had to say, just as much as they were listening to everybody else. And it was just magic for me. I don't know how else to put that, but like for the first time in my entire life, I felt seen and validated for what I knew and the points that I was making. And like my purpose in life, finally, like the light bulbs all clicked on, and, my hamsters were standing up, giving me a standing ovation. Like, look at you, and I just came out of there like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. My mother's sitting in the front row, and she's smiling like SpongeBob. My daughter's grinning from ear to ear, and I'm just, they were so proud. But then what nailed it is when I came out of there, in most of the authors on that panel with me that had far more to say than I did, that had years of experience, were telling me that I nailed it, that I crushed it, that they were proud of me. And I was just like, okay, and from that moment on, like I was just on such an adrenaline rush the rest of the weekend. Like that really, I think, drove it home for me, is to see, oh, I'm doing this. Like, and I guess with everything being online the last couple of years and COVID and everybody being locked down and us not being able to really see people, my only interaction with my fans have all been online, or with you guys have all been online. They've been virtual. You see your sales on Amazon, go up here and there. Sometimes you get a little spike. You get a little message from somebody on Facebook. Oh, hey, I really loved your story. And, and all of that is great. Like, oh, okay, cool. That's so nice. But then when you see these people coming up to you and they're in person and they're like, I drove all this way because you were coming, and they're talking to me, and I'm like, oh, what? And then they're telling me like about my books, that they've read, and they're quoting passages, and they're telling me who their favorite characters are. And that, I think, is when it really like drove it home for me that, oh, you're an author. Like, people know who you are now. Like, there's actually real people buying your books. It's not some Amazon bot going, hey, we're going to give you a sale. Like, there's real people buying my books and enjoying them, and they're telling their friends, and they want them signed. And I'm like, you want me to sign it?
Yeah.
AuthorCon is great.
Always a weird thing to kind of
Yeah.
when you like step back and sort of think about it. But yeah, I feel like those are the best moments in life when you realize like, oh, I'm finally like doing what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
Like it just feels like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's a really cool feeling, and it's a feeling that I hope that everybody at some point in their lives gets to experience. But I fear that a lot of people may also go through life, maybe like I did for so many years, where you're searching for that thing, and yeah, you're doing awesome stuff, but it never, like, the fireworks never actually go off like to the full max, you know what I mean? And it's like, I felt that way too. Like, I felt like a real author at Scares the Care. And like, I mean, I have felt like, that's not to say like I didn't feel that before, but to be amongst your peers and just sort of engage with them the way we were able to it's next level. And you did a great job on the piano, and especially considering all of your sort of issues or not issues, but like some of your challenges with public speaking and stutter, and like that's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations.
Yeah.
So this whole process for you has like kind of pushed you out of your shell, made you get into uncomfortable situations, which actually helped you grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really special. It really is special.
Yeah. Like, I spent half of my life either invisible or trying to be invisible or afraid to put myself out there and, afraid to take that step. Like, what if I fail? What if I fail? But then, you got to ask yourself, what if I don't? What if I don't? And the panel, I think, for me was a little bit easier to come out of that shell because I knew if I faltered, there were 13 other people to pick up the slack. I knew if I trailed off a little bit, somebody else could kind of step in and maybe finish my point or kind of get me back on track. And I knew I wouldn't just be me like up front in the spotlight, which really puts me at a very uncomfortable zone. But I thought that might be an easier thing for me to do because there were so many other people that I could kind of work off of or work with rather than it just being me. The reading next year, I most likely will do. I actually have an idea for a panel or a discussion that I want to hold of my own that I might approach them about for next year. I haven't told anybody about what it is yet, but I do have something that's very personal to me that I want to talk to Brian about and doing like a sort of workshop on it at AuthorCon next year, which for me would be a huge step because it would just be me leading it and sort of, this is what I want to talk about for this. So,
that's awesome. I'm sure he would be on board for that. They see everybody that was organizing the event seemed just super cool and accommodating, and it seemed like there was a lot of room for suggestion and creativity. Which obviously, as authors, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's like, it's. I just hope that we were talking about this. I think Roland in our podcast chat, just like. That's why we love doing this show, is because we hear different people reach out to us and they're like, I never thought I would pick up the pen again until we started listening to this show. And, sometimes we just sit there and we're like, this is what's so rewarding, like who knows what books these people will go on to write, you know what I mean? And like, and it's like, I just hope that people believe in themselves a little bit more, and like in what they not so much in themselves, but just believe in what they love and do it, and then that the belief in yourself will come as a result of that. I think, and it's like it could be a struggle though, but we're here now, and it's been awesome, and I think maybe we can do. I think time wise, Roland, do you have maybe another question or two before we go into?
I don't know if Aaron knows what the hamsters are. So, do you know what the hamsters are?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what the hamsters are that Candace keeps referring to?
Like, I was imagining hamsters on a wheel. Is that?
Candace?
Wait,
this is a good thing, right?
So, okay, the hamsters. This is gonna make me sound like a complete lunatic.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, all right. So, as I said, I have a very overactive brain. So when I was a kid, I learned how to compartmentalize very well for everything. So instead of putting things how some people will refer to it as, oh, I put that in the vault and locked it away, like something they don't want to think about or something they want to remember. I have hamsters. I came up with this thing because when I was a kid, to me, I had a lot of like bad thoughts and things, and I needed to lock them away. And I needed someone to make sure they didn't get out of the drawer, the filing cabinet in my brain. So I assigned it a little hamster, and I was like, all right, this is going to be your job. This is what you're going to do. And this little hamster was guarding that drawer, and it was its only job. That was its thing. It just going to guard this. And then, like, when something else popped up, I gave it, I gave it a hamster. I'm like, here's a hamster. Instead of a drawer or a box, I had hamsters that, took care of those memories I didn't want to think about, or that deadline I wanted to remember, or where I was in that book, or that appointment I needed to keep. So I have all these little, I developed this little system in my head where I have these little, I call them hamsters, but it's just like a compartmentalization thing where it's like, okay, it allows me to multitask, and little sections of my brain are actually focused on every little thing that I needed to be focused on at any given point in time. Like right now, I'm working on 9 different stories internally. Like I can tell you what's going on in all 9 of them stories, what the cast is, where the story is, what the outline is, when it's due, what the deadline is, who it's with, who it involves, and the exact point of the story that I'm on. So by the time I get ready to sit down and actually type the story up, it's already done in my head. That's why it doesn't really take me long to write a book per se, because by the time I sit down to actually type it out, it's already done in my head. I've already fleshed it out, rounded it out. I've already done all the back work, and it just pours out like somebody else is reading it to me rather than me having to come up with it as I go. All of that is done internally. And then there's a whole other little section that handles like my everyday life, like my work stuff and my appointments. And it just keeps everything like on track. Hamsters on a wheel.
Can I ask you this then? So it sounds like you don't really take a lot of notes regarding your stories then. You have a really good memory of a vault. So like we talk about this on the show quite a bit, how we constantly have to take like notes, and a lot of us use Notepad in our phone, and then I'll throw a couple bullets as the story goes, and then I'll have epiphanies, you know what I mean, about the story, major points, but it sounds like you have like a lot of like very detailed line items for each story that you're able to remember. And that's kind of interesting because it's almost like trauma created this system in your head, and then you actually like utilized that and turned it into a positive. And now it works for you. Well, it worked for you before, but in a different manner. But now it works for you to like make money and stuff, which is kind of crazy.
does.
Which I thought was
It just keeps me on track. And rather than saying, okay, I need to remember that, or, let me put that in that drawer and not think about it, or let me, go into this mode, it's like they have names. I gave them names. So if you were to get an image of my brain, you would see a Victorian library complete with a spiral staircase and the ladders that slide across the walls, and you would see little hamsters and little velvet cloaks and little eyeglasses and, little scrolls and little, quill pens, and they're writing my stories, and they're keeping things locked in the file cabinets, and they're, storing that memory away that I want to keep, and they're doing all my little tasks. And, when I need something, that hamster pops out and it's like, here you go. And they deliver me a little note and it's like, here you go. And oh yeah, that's what I need to do next. And then when I, switch from work mode to writing mode, depending on what I need to be working on, that's the drawer that pops out, or that's, that's the file, or that's the hamster that pops out. I was like, okay, we need to do this. And this is what I've done, and that little, like, my mental checklist goes off, and it's like, okay, you need to do this. This is the point you were at. This is where we are in the story. This is the editing job that we're on. Remember, you need to email this person about this. Like, it's just whatever drawer I need out just pops out. And I'm like, okay, and I'm laser focused on just that item for that length of time, rather than my brain being all over the place while I'm trying to work. Everything is very structured and very much like, okay, this drawer is open. We need to work on this file, and this is what I'm going to do until 9 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, I need this. And then that next one just falls into place, and I just switch hats, and it's like, okay, here's the next one. So I don't know. That's just me. So whenever I say, yeah, the hamsters are working on it, it just means like I'm processing whatever that is and thinking through it. And then by the time I need to sit down and actually produce it, it's generally already done. By the time I write a story or type it out, the only thing I really need to do is revise it a little bit, add my little adjustments, edit it, of course. I can't edit it in my head, but the main storyline itself is already fleshed out from beginning to end, the cast, everything. Nothing has ever changed from that structure once I write it out. It's done.
So when is your book, The Hamsters, coming out?
That friend of mine that tricked me, she actually wants to write a children's series of books based on the hamsters and their different names and jobs that I gave them.
That's really cool, actually. And then when you were describing the little hamsters
That's
in
awesome.
the library, I could see it.
Yeah.
With the glasses.
Yeah. I just think it was impressive how you're able to do that and work on so many different things in your head. And then when it's time to get it out, you're able to sit down, get it all out of you, and move on to the next thing. So that's what I was kind of just talking about as far as the hamsters.
Keeps me focused. Keeps me just focused and allows me to kind of calm the noise. Like the work. Some people we know.
Did we lose her?
I think we might have. Maybe. Can you hear us, Candace?
I got kicked out, but yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. No problem. That's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just think that, we all have our quirks and our different things. I know some folks that when they go through their house at night, they like sing a little tune, like, time to lock the door, and did I turn off the light, and, put my keys in the bowl and things like that. And it just kind of helps them remember, like, did I go through my checklist? Did I do those steps at night? So when I go to bed, I'm not laying there like, oh my God, did I get that done? Did I get that done? It's just my own little like mental checklist that sort of keeps me on track. And I know exactly what I need to do when, and then that's the checklist that comes out, and that's what I focus on. And then it kind of calms all that background noise, because how often are you writing something and then in the back of your head you're like, I gotta call the doctor, I gotta make that appointment, my son needs a checkup this week. You always have that background noise sort of happening, like there's other little things, but I don't have that with this. This keeps me solely on that task and nothing else. And then when I need to have that other task, or it's time to focus on something else, I can switch. It's just, it keeps me focused and without all the other like mental distractions of everyday life, I guess. You know,
Awesome.
hamsters.
That's
I don't know.
the hamsters. Be on the lookout, guys. All right. Well, we're kind of winding
Amazing.
down here time wise, but so there's a couple things we want to ask you, just to wrap up. But before we do that, I got one more question. And I try to ask it to everybody, and it's as far as when you're at the end of the road. Are you still there, Candace? 'Cause I don't know if your screen froze again.
Video went away.
The video went away. Maybe
Yeah.
we lost her again. It's just you and me, old boy. It's just you and me, old friend.
The best ones.
Yo, the internet's a motherfucker, though, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what happened with mine earlier. Like, just the power cut off and then came back on.
Thank God mine hasn't gone down because it would fuck up all the recording stuff. But
We're still recording right now, right?
yeah, we're still entertaining while we get Candace back on the line.
I'm very entertaining.
You can think about Daniel doing his little toupee search, you know.
Could you imagine how that would look?
I would help him. I would staple it to his head for him if he asked me, you know.
Staple it.
Would you want to secure it, you know? A high quality rug like that. Yo.
Text Candace to see if we can get her back.
Yeah, I think she still has the link. I would imagine. Let me see.
You guys, technical difficulties, so just bear with us.
Yo, we live in the digital age, you know?
Just I am 1 second. So she's on her way back soon.
Okay, cool.
The guest of the hour.
Excuse me.
I guess you might have to edit some of this out.
Nah, I don't do no editing on the show, man. I don't got time for it. So, like, everyone who's hanging with us right now, I really appreciate it, guys. It's raw and real. This is what we do.
No.
She's back.
I don't know what happened.
We were just trying to fill up empty airtime by making jokes and talking about Daniel's toupee.
Yeah.
Oh, like I think maybe I had a power surge or like something. It just vanished. I don't know. And then I lost internet for like 3 seconds.
Oh, it's okay.
That's awesome. You're back.
It's all
Too
good.
much hamster talk, see?
Aaron, what was your question? Where were you going?
Oh, yeah. So we'd like to ask everybody this. When it's all said and done and, you're just mere minutes or seconds away from death and it's coming, what is it going to take for you to look back on everything in that flash of an instant when your life flashes before your eyes and be satisfied? You know what I mean? Like, is there any mega goals that you have, or what is going to make you feel satisfied at the end of it all? Like, as far as a legacy, if you in fact want to leave a legacy.
Sure, lay a heavy question on me. All right. I don't know exactly. I do have several rather lofty goals if I ever make enough money to make it happen, but it has nothing to do with my writing per se. As far as my writing goes, I'm content with what I've accomplished now. If I were to drop dead immediately after this interview, I wouldn't have a regret. Other than, well, fuck, that sucks, But I believe in the last 3 years, I have accomplished things that I was convinced I could not do, was not capable of, and would never do. And just in those last couple of years, being able to build the brand that I have, build my website up to the point that it is now, the books that I have written, the stories I've told, the experiences alone that I have had with all of you guys and meeting some of just my absolute heroes in life, No, I can't say I would have a regret at this point with how far I've come. Personally, for me, because I know where I've come from and what I've come through, and where I am now is miles and miles ahead of that. And I believe not only where, what I've been through, but the person that I was. I'm not the same person today that I was 5 years ago by leaps and bounds. And that, I think, for me is huge. So regrets right at this point, none. Any major goals at like the end of my life, maybe 50, 60 years, do I have anything on my list for writing that I want to check off that's uber important to me? Sure, okay, let's have a laundry list of awards, or, but is it important at the end of the day? No, because as long as I have the reading base that I have and the fan base that I have, and I get a couple, here and there that are new and they're enjoying what I do, then I've done what I was meant to do. If my story has even entertained or has helped one person, then I've accomplished what I set out to do. And for me, that's enough. And the other side of that answer would also be for my kids. I have 3, and they have seen a lot of, what I've been through, what I've come through. They've seen the person that I once was and the person I am now. They have seen me grow and change and improve and constantly learn to adjust and to adapt and overcome more things than I think most people have to do in a lifetime. And I know that they're proud of me at this point. I know they have seen me do some things that they also probably thought I would never do. And it's always been a thing, like, hey, Mom, you should write, or you should do that, you should do that, you should try it. I'm like, that ship sailed, whatever. It was a dream. Dreams don't come true like that. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a Disney movie. This is life. But I think going from that person, like even 5, 6 years ago, to what I am now, my kids are proud of me, and my kids know that I've done major things for where I once thought I was going to be and be capable of. And for me, that's enough, because I think I've proven to my kids and I've shown my kids that no matter what you go through or who you are, you can. You absolutely can if you're determined enough.
And that's an awesome answer. And it's funny. I'm going to go ahead and pop quiz Roland on this. Where have you heard a similar answer? Who gave a similar answer to that? Do you remember?
Who?
I knew you wouldn't remember. You're slipping. You're slipping, Roland. Damn.
I'm 51 years old. I'm remembering what it used to be.
No, Rain Havoc gave a similar answer where she said, she was very content and pleased with what she's done, and that, like, she worked with people that she didn't imagine that, and gained people's respect that she didn't imagine she ever would, And I think it's like an important thing that a lot of people, we're writers, and a lot of us are always just thinking about the next story, the next book, and we don't take a lot of time to, like, really stop and smell the roses and sort of bask in our accomplishment a little bit, you know what I mean? Because it is a grind too, you know what I mean? And it's a struggle for relevance and to remain successful and maintain your image and everything. And it's like there's a lot that goes with that. So it's a great answer, because I think not enough people think that way. And you could fucking die tomorrow, and you didn't really ever take a moment to, sort of recognize what you did, Yeah. And that's kind of sad sometimes. So that's a great answer. Yeah. And what, Roland? Every time on the show, we always have to ask a couple things that are staples. The first one is about our reader recognition, right?
Yeah. Like, is there a particular reader or readers that you want to just give a shout out and say thank you to? Somebody you want to acknowledge?
All of them is a good answer.
Understand.
Yeah, absolutely. My first and foremost answer will always be every single person that has ever read anything of mine, whether they liked it or not, the fact that they gave it a chance means more to me than anything I could ever possibly tell you or express, just because as a reader, it's a very personal choice. If you're going to like a story, if you're not going to like it, if you want to take a chance on somebody new or not, and you're putting, a couple dollars of your hard-earned money on that, and it's appreciated. Even if you didn't like it at the end of the day, or even if you gave me a one-star review at the end of the day, you still took a chance on someone new or on something that may have been new to you. And first, before anything, that's appreciated and it's important, because without people like that taking a chance on people like me, we would never be seen, So I think above all else, like I would, want to thank them all. But there is a person in particular, can't talk today. Sorry, I was drinking before. But there's a person in particular. There is a lady that I met on the Books of Horror group. They do like this swap group thing that they also have, where they do a quarterly book swap thing, which is really cool, when people trade books back and forth and you get a big box from your swap partner of, things on your wish list, different books that you wanted, maybe some treats that you like, different things like that. And I joined that group probably about a year and a half ago, and I met some really great people like that, and I got some awesome gift boxes from folks and gave me a chance to, send back big boxes to folks, and it was a lot of fun. But my second swap partner is a lady named Dark Rose, is her Facebook name. And as I think you both know now, she's also a reviewer on my website now, Dark Rose. And she has become my #1 fan. She's my hype man. She is a close friend now. She helps read everything that I write. She shares everything that I do. If anybody's asking for a recommendation, she's on it. She's in the Books of Horror group. She's in all the other groups going, hey, you need to read this by Candace. You need to read this by Candace. Like, Breach, Bishop, what do you want? What's your recommendation? What are you looking for? And like, she's just been an amazing, amazing support that I never thought I would really find in just a reader. And she reads hundreds of books a year. Like, she loves reading. She loves horror. She's a big supporter of the community itself. But for me, she's just been amazing. I mean, there's so many others I could thank as well. Of course, Marion and Christina and the moms, like, they're hilarious. They're hugely supportive of a lot of things that I
Not again.
Candace? Oh God, this is what are we gonna do, Roland? What are we gonna do?
She's back.
I'm back. I don't know, guys. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No, it's all good.
We have Dark
You're gonna have a lot of editing to do.
We're not editing.
I don't edit shit. This is like when you wake up with this show is like when you wake up and you don't put makeup on. You know what I mean? It's just raw beauty.
Like, I check everything. I have a freaking high-speed internet up here. I have no idea what's going on.
It's fine.
Okay. There's another fourth picture of Candace. Do you see it, Aaron?
I am.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah, big me, little me. Hey, it's a hamster.
All right, so we got
Anyway,
Dark Rose.
so Dark Rose, Christina Pfeiffer, Marion Elaine, the moms. There's so many other people I could name, but yeah, Dark Rose is just, my hat is off to her. She's just been amazing. And I can whine to her, I can bitch to her, I can bounce ideas off of her. I send her the rawest form of things that I've written or maybe I've jotted down. And I'm like, what do you think of this idea? And she's like, nah, why don't you add this, tweak this, put this here. What do you think of this? And like, I can bounce things off of her. She's just been a huge help. So that would be my choice for my reader. Thank you. And just, there's a lot of the things in the last couple of maybe the last year or so that I really probably wouldn't have made it through without like her and Roland, of course, who, I go to for everything. So
Big shout out to Dark Rose and
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and
I
she does
just
review.
followed her. I'm familiar with that group that she has. I think I
Mhm.
entered that group a couple months ago. It was pretty. Somebody invited me in there, and they were like, I was like, oh, this is a cool group. I just saw some of the stuff they were posting up.
Really great group.
You'll get kicked out pretty quickly.
You think so? Just
They're
by my
gonna
inappropriate
kick you
nature.
out. Yeah.
Hey,
All right,
And
so
Candace,
you
our
got the
next
last one.
question-
Yep.
Should I finish? Okay. Oh, sorry. So our next question is, before we sign off, who are you reading right now, and who do you think people should be reading right now?
who am I reading? I'm a reviewer, Roland. I'm reading everything.
Well, you have to narrow it down if you can.
Oh my God, I can't. I'm reading everybody. I literally have like 20 books lined up for this month. I try to keep it fair. So I try very hard not to just consistently read, all of Aaron's work, all of your work, all of Carver's, like back to back to back. And then I get a lot of review requests from people constantly. And then there are some people that will come back and say, hey, here's another, here's another, here's another. And I try very hard not to keep reading the same people and try to spread out my reviews of the same author, just because, I do try very hard to keep it fair. I don't want that reputation of, oh, she only reads and reviews her friends. No, I don't. I read anybody who approaches me with content that I can approve and review for my site, number one. But I am currently reading, let me see. So Carver's new book, Faces of Beth. I'm working my way through, even though Mort has already reviewed it for the website. I'm reading that. I am reading, they're downstairs right now. So there's a book called The Pain Eater coming out that I'm currently reading for review. It is by Kyle Muntz. I am reading Tommy Clark's Good Boy. It's a book it's a zombie apocalypse told from the viewpoint of a dog. So it's been really interesting so far. It's very well done. Like, I'm about halfway through his right now. And those are the three that I'm reading, I believe, for this week. And then there's another one that I have to read before the end of the week. So those are up for this week. As far as author that I think people should be reading more of, that would be Mike Ennenbach. Yes, he's a friend, but he is one of the most underrated authors out right now. A lot of people know him for the poetry that he posts online, which is amazing. And the man has just a more expansive vocabulary than I've ever seen. Some of the words he uses is just unbelievable. And he probably does 100 or so poems a week. He just is a machine. But for his stories and his horror stories, he does horror and bizarro sort of stories. And the imagination on this man and his books is just incredible. There's a book he has called Notches, which is a collection of some of his short stories. It's just unbelievable. The stories that are in there, they're so well written. His prose is just magnificent. It's just, he doesn't promote himself, I think, as much as he should or could. And a lot of people, I think, know him for his poetry. And I don't think there's as many people as aware that he's an author too, and has horror books and these bizarro books and these different collections that he's in. And he needs to be heard and read. And I absolutely love the way that he writes and the books that he writes. His story for The Baker's Dozen was our closer for a reason, because it was so well done. And not only did it fit the theme perfectly, but there was so much emotion poured into this absolutely somewhat bizarre and horrific little story. But by the end of it, I actually cried because it was so goddamn sweet at the end.
So sweet.
Oh my God. I had no idea where this story was going. And when I read it, I legit had tears in my eyes because I was like, what the hell, Mike? Right out of left field. Like, I'm reading a story about, Death comes to town and he's buying these donuts and he's just wreaking havoc every fucking where and he's buying balloons. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, where are we going? And it was amusing and it's great. And there's all these little action and there's just these horrific scenes. But he was just, I don't want to give it away, but by the end of the story, I was like, oh my God. It was so well done. Like, I did not see it coming at all, and when it got there, I was just like, man, that's my closer. That's he's amazing, and he has more talent in his little finger than I have, I think, with all of my hamsters combined. Like, I really, truly think he's somebody that he would shoot through the stars if more people were paying attention. So,
that's awesome.
Can't recommend him enough. Like, he's just amazing.
I listened to that. That was the last story on the Baker's Dozen audiobook today. And like you, when it was over, I was like,
right?
It was so good.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, so check out Mike. I know he's got works on Amazon. He has some books through Death's Head Press too. So be sure to check there. I'm sure he does signed copies, right? If people want to reach out directly to him.
Yep.
So definitely check him out on Facebook if you guys want to grab a signed copy.
Yep. He also has a Splatter Western with Death's Head Press. Hunger on the Chisholm Trail is one of them.
Yeah, I think he was one of the early releases. So definitely check it out and reach out, Also, so I think as we wrap up, where can we find your stuff? You're selling signed copies, obviously, too.
Yep. On my website, uncomfortablydark.com. You can find me pretty much on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm all over the place. I do sell personalized copies on my site, in my store. I have t-shirts and merch and all that stuff as well. If you order books off of me, you get, it comes with all the swag and the bookmarks and all that stuff too. I do all the fun stuff. I do have a page on the Buy Me a Coffee site too. If anybody, if you're so inclined to join there, I do a series of, I do a couple of different things there. I have an author advice grouping of posts that I do. So during my journey the last couple of years of not having no one to ask advice of and not knowing what to do, everything that I've learned, I actually wrote it all down into a Word file, and it's all documented. What websites I use, how to create a newsletter, like how do you connect MailChimp, what story origin is, like how, what marketing and promoting things you can use, like all these little things that I've learned. I actually wrote out this entire, it's like 28 pages of just advice, and it's all posted on there too. I'm doing a story in progress series of posts for members. If you join at the $5 a month, you get to actually see me writing a story live that I post a couple paragraphs of each week. And it's completely raw. I've not edited. I've not revised anything. And when I finish it, so during those posts, you'll see me write it out, and then I'll go back through and show you the revision and the editing process of that, how that story will change and improve. And then when I'm done with it, everybody that's signed up at that level will get a personalized chapbook for that story. You'll only be able to get it from that site. I won't be publishing it or posting it anywhere else. So there's that too. And then I post my newsletter out there as well. And you can also sign up for the newsletter on my website too. So I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Definitely check it out, guys. And remember, be ready for her chapbooks too from Death's Head. So that's going to be awesome. And thanks again. Thanks for coming on. But before we sign off, Roland, what about you?
Hey guys, you can find me on Facebook, Roland Bercy Jr., or you can
send me a message on my website, rolandversityjr.com. All of my stuff is on Amazon as well, so just look me up and send me a message, say hello. I love talking to you guys.
If you message me, I'll give you his phone number.
Yes. Send pictures.
Okay.
And I'm Aaron Beauregard. You can find most of my stuff on Amazon. You can always reach out directly to me on social media if you have any questions about my work or questions about my website that I launched, which is abhorror.com, just like the first two letters of the alphabet, AB Horror. And got all kinds of shit on there. Actually, I just got this slob fanny pack in, so I'll be wearing this at conventions in the future. But if you guys want to fanny around as well, though, that's an option. And I'll show this shirt off. This is like the print all over all smiles shirt, which is super fucking comfortable. So I did the whole apparel thing, which is on the site, and then also obviously all the signed copies and stuff. But you guys can always reach out directly if you have any questions about anything, though, as you know. And we're going to talk about our friends. I know Roland's like, don't you forget, motherfucker.
Yes.
I saw you. You coming down like dad, ready to slap me.
Can't forget our friends.
Daniel, I believe he'll have the toupee secured by next episode, but he's going to be he also launched his website, which is it's DanielJVolpeHorror.com, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but because he didn't go with the acronym and make it easy. Of course not. That would be too fucking logical, Daniel.
It is Daniel Jacobs. I think you're right.
It is, right? Okay, so either way, reach out to Daniel, of course, directly, and he's going to have all his website links on his social media too. But he does sign copies. He does sign toupees. He does it all. And then Carver Pike. Roland, can you tell us a little bit about our friend Carver?
Yes, our friend Carver Pike, who is also on Facebook. His stuff can be found on Amazon as well. And then he has his, first chapter freak show.
Yep.
That he does every week, I believe. So yeah, Carver's also, I think, a signed copy. So send him a message if you're interested in getting any of his works.
Awesome. So thanks again, Candace, for coming on the show. We had a great time.
Yeah.
And I think the readers and writers will all really enjoy this. So.
Yeah.
I hope so. And if not, well, I had fun.
All right. Well, again, this has been the Written in Red podcast. And until next time, keep it 100% horror.